Billionaire mom's baby calls the maid Mama. DNA test reveals a chilling truth. The penthouse was silent except for the faint hum of the city below, a glass and gold fortress perched 72 stories above Manhattan. Morning sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting diamonds of light across the Italian marble floors. Everything in the apartment spoke of wealth, custom art, fresh orchids, even the scent, a private blend of jasmine and oud piped in through a hidden diffuser system. Ariel Lancaster, 36, billionaire heiress and CEO of a global luxury brand, stood at the center of it all, impeccable in her white silk robe, coffee in hand, face glowing from her morning facial. Her schedule was booked minute by minute. Board meetings, private fittings, a charity gala at the Met by nightfall. But today, something pulled at her. Something not on the calendar. A baby's giggle echoed from the hallway. She smiled. Noah, she whispered, softening. Her son was nearly a year old now, and every moment with him felt like borrowed time from the empire she ran. She set her coffee down and followed the sound barefoot, her steps light on the heated floor. What she saw made her stop cold. There, in the soft light of the nursery hallway, her son was in the arms of the maid, Camilla. The young woman had her long dark hair tied back, her plain uniform slightly rumpled. She held Noah close, rocking him gently as he laughed and reached for her earrings. Ariel wasn't angry. Camilla was sweet. She had worked for them for just under a year, hired through an agency after a dozen others didn't last. Noah adored her. But then it happened. "Mama," the baby cooed, pointing at Camilla's face with a chubby hand. "Mama!" Ariel froze. She stepped closer, trying to smile through the sudden tightness in her chest. "Did he just—" Camilla looked up, startled, and blushed deeply. "Oh no, ma'am, he's just learning sounds. I think he means you." But Noah was insistent. He giggled again and wrapped his arms tightly around Camilla's neck. "Mama!" Ariel's throat tightened. Her fingers twitched as she reached for Noah. "Let me have him, please." Camilla hesitated a second too long. Then she handed the baby over, her expression unreadable. Ariel took Noah into her arms, her mind spinning. He nestled into her chest but looked back over her shoulder, eyes still searching for Camilla. The word echoed again in her head like a taunt. "Mama." She didn't show it, but inside something cracked, something old and hidden. She hadn't carried Noah herself. He was born via surrogacy after years of failed IVF and a quiet divorce that had gutted her emotionally. But she had raised him, paid for the best care, designed his nursery, held him every night, even if only for minutes between Zoom calls. So why her? Camilla stood silently, head slightly bowed. "I'll go start breakfast," she said softly, disappearing down the hallway. Ariel watched her leave, heart pounding. That night, after the gala, after the press, after the cameras, Ariel sat alone in her bedroom, the baby monitor glowing beside her bed. Noah was asleep, calm now. But her mind wasn't. She opened her phone and scrolled through her private messages. She found the contact for a discreet biotech startup she'd once invested in, one that specialized in cutting-edge DNA testing. It was meant for elite matchmaking, high-risk inheritances, even secret paternity disputes. She typed a message. "Can you overnight a DNA verification bracelet? I need to confirm maternity." She didn't know why she was doing it, but the word mama kept echoing, and her instincts were screaming. The next morning arrived wrapped in silence, not the calming kind, but the tense, watchful stillness of a home that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Ariel Lancaster walked into the kitchen wearing oversized sunglasses and a hooded cashmere wrap, her eyes shielded even from the morning sun filtering through the penthouse's massive glass walls. Camilla was already there, preparing a bottle while Noah bounced in his smart seat, babbling to no one in particular. Ariel's eyes flicked toward her son. He looked up, gave a gummy smile, but didn't reach for her. She smiled back, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Morning," she said to Camilla. Camilla turned quickly, face lit with warmth. "Good morning, Ms. Lancaster. He's already had his banana, and I think he's teething again." Ariel nodded but said nothing else. At exactly 8:43 a.m., the doorman called to inform her of a private package delivery, hand-delivered by a courier wearing gloves and requesting a signature. She excused herself and went downstairs to meet him in person. When she returned, she clutched a sleek black case no larger than a sunglasses pouch. Inside, the DNA bracelet, sleek, medical grade, non-invasive. Just a tiny lock of Noah's hair and a contact swipe from herself and Camilla would be enough. Results would be delivered within 48 hours via secure channel. Ariel stood in her walk-in closet, staring at the kit. Her heart pounded like she was about to commit a crime. But this wasn't paranoia. This was instinct. Billionaires don't become billionaires by ignoring their gut. That night, after Camilla had gone home, claiming her usual early shift and promising to return at 6 a.m., Ariel entered Noah's room. The boy was asleep, one arm slung above his head, pacifier slipping from his lips. She moved gently, whispering apologies as she snipped a single curl from behind his ear and collected the sample. Then, under the cover of moonlight pouring through the glass, she slipped into the guest room, where Camilla sometimes napped during long days. A single hair from her brush, that's all it took. By midnight, the samples were scanned, tagged, and uploaded to the secure biotech server. The wait began. 2 days later, the email arrived. Your results are ready. Open via biometric confirmation. Ariel sat at her desk, alone, palms sweating. The system scanned her retina. The report opened. There were 3 segments. One for her, one for Noah, one for Camilla. Her eyes darted to the key percentage match between her and Noah. 99.87%. As expected. Maternal match confirmed. She exhaled, laughing bitterly at herself. All this, the panic, the drama, over a confused baby's babble. But then she looked at the Camilla-Noah segment and froze. 99.82% genetic match. Ariel's breath caught in her throat. Her mouth went dry. No, she whispered. She blinked, refreshed the screen. Still there. Camilla wasn't just close to Noah biologically. She shared nearly the same match Ariel did. An impossibility unless her thoughts exploded in 1,000 directions, her pulse roaring in her ears. Was it a system error? Was there a twin? No. She would have known. Unless the surrogate wasn't who they said she was. Suddenly, Ariel remembered something buried in the background of the surrogacy agreement. A small clinic overseas, chosen for discretion. She'd never met the surrogate in person, just legal names, scans, contracts that were handled by her ex-husband's legal team. Ariel sat back in her chair, heart thudding with every piece clicking into place. She grabbed her phone and scrolled to her lawyer's number, but she stopped. Because in that moment another possibility hit her, darker than any before. What if Camilla wasn't a stranger? What if Camilla knew? What if Camilla wasn't just the maid? Ariel couldn't sleep that night. She sat in her home office, lights off, screens glowing in the dimness like secrets waiting to be discovered. The DNA results pulsed in her mind, repeating like a broken song. 99.82% match. There was no mistake. Camilla wasn't just close to Noah. She was biologically tied to him, in a way no maid should be. The only logical explanation sent a shiver down Ariel's spine. Surrogacy. The clinic had been discreet to a fault, a boutique facility in Argentina known for sealing records tighter than the Pentagon. She had been too exhausted back then, too emotionally numb after years of miscarriages and a cold, crumbling marriage. Her ex-husband, Jonathan, had insisted on handling everything. Don't worry, he'd said. I'll find a reputable surrogate overseas. You deserve to rest. Rest, right. She opened her encrypted server and pulled up the old surrogacy documents. Most were PDF scans, signed and sealed, all perfectly in order, on the surface. But when she looked closer, one name jumped out. Camilla Delgado. It was buried deep in a supplemental form, almost invisible. Not the birth certificate, not the medical scans, just a name on a transfer consent form. Camilla Delgado, consenting gestational carrier. Her blood ran cold. She pulled up Camilla's employee file. The agency listed her full name as Camilla Reyes Delgado. Same woman. Camilla was the surrogate. She had given birth to Noah. And now she was here, living under Ariel's roof, holding her baby, hearing him call her mama. But why? Why would a surrogate, someone paid, bound by contract, sworn to anonymity, show up months later as a domestic worker? It didn't make sense, unless it was never supposed to. Ariel's thoughts shifted to her ex-husband. Jonathan had always played a dangerous game with trust, charming on the surface, ruthless underneath. Their divorce had been clean on paper, but left emotional scars she never admitted. What if this was his final trick? A hidden clause? A quiet revenge? What if he planted Camilla here? The thought made her nauseous. She called her lawyer at 2:14 a.m. I need you to run a full audit on the surrogacy paperwork, real names, visas, anything that traces Camilla Delgado to my ex-husband. Pull bank transfers. Track offshore wires, don't ask questions, just do it. Then she ended the call and stared into the shadows of the nursery through the baby monitor screen. Noah slept peacefully, his tiny chest rising and falling. Ariel leaned back, whispering to the silence, "Who are you, Camilla?" The next morning, Ariel invited Camilla to sit for breakfast. An unusual break from routine. Camilla looked nervous, smoothing the front of her uniform. "I just wanted to talk," Ariel said, carefully pouring coffee into matching porcelain cups. "I feel like I don't know much about you." Camilla hesitated, then smiled. "Of course, Mom. I've worked in care my whole life. I'm originally from Mendoza, Argentina." Ariel's heart nearly stopped. "Argentina." She took a slow sip. "Do you have children of your own?" The flicker of emotion was quick, but unmistakable in Camilla's eyes. "No," she said softly. "Not anymore." Ariel didn't press. "Not yet." Instead, she smiled tightly and said, "Thank you for everything you do. Noah really loves you." Camilla blinked back something behind her eyes. "I love him too," she said, voice almost cracking. "Like he's my own." That was all Ariel needed to hear. As Camilla returned to the nursery, Ariel's phone buzzed. A message from her lawyer confirmed. Camilla Delgado gave birth to Noah. Surrogacy records were masked. "And one more thing. Your ex-husband kept visiting the clinic months after your contract ended." Ariel stood frozen. The man she once trusted had hidden a secret inside her own child. And the woman now holding her baby had once been his mother. Ariel spent the entire day observing from behind the glass. Her sleek modern home now felt like a gilded surveillance cage. From her office window, she watched Camilla play with Noah in the rooftop garden. The boy lit up around her, shrieking with laughter as she chased him gently between the planters. Their bond wasn't fabricated, it was real. And that made it worse. That night, Ariel waited until the house was quiet. Noah was asleep. The staff had left. Camilla remained. She often volunteered for overnight care when the baby was restless. Ariel stepped into the dim kitchen where Camilla sat alone at the table, scrolling through her phone. "Camilla," she said gently, "we need to talk." The maid looked up quickly, sensing the shift in tone. Ariel sat across from her, folded her hands and placed a single printed page on the table, a copy of the surrogacy record with Camilla's signature. Camilla's face turned pale. "I know everything," Ariel said softly. "I know you're Noah's birth mother." Silence. Camilla stared at the paper, her eyes wide, then slowly filled with tears. She didn't deny it. "I didn't come here to hurt anyone," she whispered. "Then why did you come here?" Ariel asked. "Why take the job?" Camilla looked down, swallowing hard. "Because I lost everything." She paused. "They told me it would be a clean process, anonymous. I needed the money. My mother was dying of cancer, and the surrogacy payment would cover her treatment. I signed everything, gave birth, walked away." A tear slid down her cheek. "But months later, I got curious. I asked someone at the clinic if the baby was okay. They brushed me off, said I had no rights, no access. I tried to move on, but I couldn't." Ariel listened in stunned silence. "Then," Camilla continued, "your husband, Jonathan, he found me. He came to Argentina, said he wanted to make sure I wasn't going to cause problems. I told him I wasn't, but then he offered me a job." Ariel's stomach twisted. "He recruited you?" Camilla nodded slowly. "He said you needed a new maid, that it would be temporary. I thought I could handle it. Just see him from afar, never say a word. But when I held Noah for the first time," she choked on emotion. "I knew I'd never be the same." Ariel stood, pacing the room now. "So all this time, you've been lying to me? Playing house with my son?" "No," Camilla said firmly, standing too. "I've cared for him, loved him, protected him like you asked me to. I never tried to take him from you. I chose to leave him. You're his mother. You gave him this life." Ariel turned sharply. "Then why didn't you tell me the truth?" "Because I knew you'd send me away," Camilla said through tears, "and I couldn't lose him twice." The room filled with silence, thick, raw, electric. Ariel wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. But most of all, she wanted to understand why her world felt like it was unraveling from the inside out. She looked at Camilla, truly looked at her. This wasn't a con. This wasn't betrayal. This was heartbreak. And behind all the anger, jealousy, and fear, Ariel felt something else. Recognition. Here stood another woman who had suffered to bring Noah into the world, who had carried him, loved him, let him go. And then, fate had cruelly, impossibly, returned him to her arms. Neither of them had planned this, but now Both were part of something they couldn't undo. "Go to bed," Ariel said quietly. "We'll talk tomorrow." Camilla looked at her with trembling eyes, nodded once and walked silently to the guest room. Ariel stood alone in the kitchen, heart split wide open. For the first time, she didn't know if she was still the only mother in her son's life. The next morning, the penthouse was quiet in a way that felt unnatural. Ariel walked the halls like a ghost in her own home, every corner echoing with questions she still hadn't answered. She found herself outside Noah's nursery, watching through the crack in the door. Camilla was there already, rocking him gently, humming a lullaby Ariel didn't recognize. The baby's fingers were wrapped tightly around Camilla's thumb. His eyes fluttered with sleep. It was a portrait of peace and war, and an emotional dagger to the heart. Ariel backed away before they could see her. Her mind was a storm, legal options, public fallout, emotional chaos. But louder than all that was one persistent, unshakable question. What does he need? She sat with that question all morning. Later that day, she called an emergency session with Dr. Porter, Noah's pediatric psychologist, a discreet consultant who catered to elite families navigating complex issues. They met in the media room, darkened like a theater, where no eyes could find them. "I need your confidentiality," Ariel said without preamble. "What I'm about to tell you hasn't been disclosed to anyone outside my legal team." Dr. Porter nodded, calm as ever. Ariel laid it all out: the surrogacy, the mistaken identity, the DNA results, and the truth about Camilla's presence. "I don't want a scandal," she finished, "but I also don't want to tear Noah apart." Dr. Porter leaned forward, her voice measured but compassionate. "Children form attachments based on emotional safety, not biology. If Noah sees Camilla as part of that safety, removing her abruptly could be traumatic. But at the same time, you're his legal mother, his primary attachment." Ariel exhaled, pressing a trembling hand to her forehead. "I don't want to lose him." "You won't," Dr. Porter said, "but you may have to make space for both of you." That night, Ariel poured a glass of wine and waited at the kitchen island. When Camilla emerged from the nursery, surprised to find her awake, Ariel gestured to the seat beside her. "Sit." Camilla obeyed cautiously. Ariel took a sip of wine. "I spoke with Noah's psychologist today." Camilla's eyes widened. "I'm not going to fire you," Ariel said slowly, "and I'm not going to press charges or bury this with lawyers. But things have to change." Camilla's breath caught. "I want structure, boundaries, clear understanding. We're going to explain this to Noah when he's older. But for now, I need to know you respect that I am his mother." "I do," Camilla whispered, voice cracking. "I've never tried to replace you." Ariel nodded. "But," she added, "I can't deny what you are to him, what you might become. And I won't lie to myself or to him." Camilla's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to confuse him," she said. "I just want to be near him." Ariel reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder. A legal agreement newly drafted. "This gives you limited guardianship in case of emergencies, and it sets new boundaries for your role in his life. If you want to stay, we follow this together." Camilla looked at the folder with trembling hands. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Ariel stared at her wineglass for a long moment, then met her gaze. "Because I've lost too much already. And Noah deserves the truth, even if it's complicated." The silence between them was no longer cold. It was shared. Two mothers, one child, and a fragile peace between them. Weeks passed. On the surface, life at the Lancaster penthouse resumed its normal rhythm. Camilla resumed her duties with a new sense of caution, always mindful of boundaries. Ariel kept a close eye on Noah's development, watching for signs of confusion or distress. To her surprise, and maybe even her pain, he adjusted effortlessly, as if love, not titles, defined his safety. But under that fragile peace, something festered. Ariel still couldn't shake the sense of violation, not by Camilla, but by Jonathan, her ex-husband. The man who orchestrated this entire deception, who dropped a biological time bomb into her home and walked away. She needed answers. So she went to the one person who might give them, in person. Jonathan Lancaster was now living in a sleek Malibu estate, funded in part by a quiet payout from their divorce settlement. He opened the door, shirtless, smiling like old times hadn't curdled into betrayal. "Well, this is a surprise," he said. Ariel didn't return the smile. "We need to talk." They sat outside under the shade of a teak pergola. Waves crashed in the distance, but Ariel didn't feel the breeze. "You found her," Jonathan said casually, pouring himself a drink. "Didn't think it would take you this long." Her jaw clenched. So it was deliberate? Jonathan smirked. I didn't think you'd care. You were so checked out during the surrogacy process, I figured it wouldn't matter who carried him. She was supposed to be anonymous. She was, he said, until I changed that. Ariel's hands shook. Why, Jonathan? Why bring her back? His smile faded. Because I saw something in her that I never saw in you, he said coldly. She didn't just carry Noah. She loved him. From the start. You treated him like another acquisition. I wanted to see what would happen if he had both mothers. Ariel recoiled as if slapped. You played God with my family. No, Jonathan said. I gave him a chance at something real, something more human than private nannies and titanium cribs. You had no right. I had every right, he snapped. He's my son too, and I wasn't going to watch you raise him like a prop for your brand. Ariel stood abruptly, her voice steel. You don't know a damn thing about how I've raised him. You don't get to undermine me because you're bitter I succeeded without you. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. So what now? You going to cut me out completely? Ariel leaned in, calm but venomous. You cut yourself out the moment you weaponized a woman's womb, the moment you lied to me about the surrogate. And yes, my lawyers will make sure your access is re-evaluated. She turned and walked toward the gate, heels clicking like gunshots against the stone. Jonathan called after her. You're making a mistake, Ariel. You think you're in control, but that baby, he's not just yours. She didn't turn back. As her car pulled away from the estate, Ariel stared out the window, breathing hard. The betrayal was deeper than she imagined, but beneath the rage, something else stirred. Clarity. Jonathan had planted Camila in her life like a poison, but somehow that poison had become part of the cure. It started with a whisper. A blind item on a gossip blog read, Billionaire fashion icon hires Maid with shocking connection to her surrogate child. It seemed like nothing at first, a breadcrumb in the avalanche of celebrity noise, but Ariel knew better. Within days, the story exploded. Major outlets picked it up. Paparazzi swarmed the building. Rumors ranged from illicit affairs to adoption fraud. Camila was dubbed the Maid Mother, and Noah, barely one-year-old Gais, was thrust into the global spotlight. Ariel watched the chaos unfold from her penthouse window, the world below burning with speculation. Camila stayed out of sight, terrified, shaken, but still, every morning she held Noah with steady hands. Ariel's legal team scrambled to issue denials. False, misleading, irrelevant, but it was too late. The narrative had taken a life of its own. Then came the real threat. Jonathan. He saw the media storm as his opportunity. He filed a petition with the court, a demand for shared custody, claiming that Ariel had emotionally compromised the child by allowing unsupervised access to his biological surrogate without transparency or oversight. He weaponized her choice to let Camila stay. And now, the same man who once abandoned fatherhood was using their secret to claw his way back into power. Ariel sat in her lawyer's office, white-knuckling a ceramic espresso cup. This will go to court, the attorney said grimly. He's playing dirty. And if he proves Camila had a maternal bond with the child, while under your employment, the court could see it as negligent at best, manipulative at worst. So what are my options? The lawyer looked at her over thin-rimmed glasses. You cut ties, fire Camila, publicly denounce her, prove you're the sole stable parent. Ariel felt like the air had been sucked from the room. Fire Camila? Erase her? Undo everything they had rebuilt, not for herself, but for Noah. That night, she walked into the guest room where Camila was folding Noah's onesies, carefully, like sacred objects. I have to let you go, Ariel said, voice hollow. Camila froze. I saw the news, she whispered. I'm sorry. Tears welled in Camilla's eyes, but she didn't argue. She simply nodded. When? Tomorrow, before the next headline drops. Camila looked away, biting her lip. Can I say goodbye to him? Ariel paused. Of course. Later, she watched through the monitor as Camila sat beside Noah's crib, tears streaking silently down her cheeks. She placed her hand gently on his chest, whispering something in Spanish. Then, without a sound, she stood and left the room. The next morning, Camila was gone. No farewell, no suitcase. Just a note. Thank you for giving him a life I couldn't. I'll love him from afar. See, the house felt colder. Noah cried longer than usual that night, reaching perhaps for arms that would no longer come. Ariel held him tighter, but deep down she knew some part of him had already been taken. 3 months passed. The world moved on, as it always does. New scandals replaced old ones. Social media forgot. The press turned its lens elsewhere. But inside the Lancaster penthouse, the silence remained. Thick, brittle, and unnatural. Noah had stopped calling anyone Mama for a while. He babbled, yes, laughed, reached for toys, but his eyes often searched the room as if waiting for someone who no longer appeared. Ariel felt the distance every day. She filled their time with therapists, sensory play, music instructors. Her life became a rotating door of parenting experts and early development consultants. But none of them could replicate what had been lost. One night, while going through old storage for a new photo wall, she found it, tucked in the bottom of a drawer. The DNA bracelet, still sleek, still cold. She turned it over in her hands, remembering how it had once been a tool of suspicion and revelation. That night, after Noah was asleep, she pulled out her phone and opened a hidden folder. Inside were messages she'd never deleted, ones she'd written but never sent. To Camilla, I hope you're safe. He still looks for you. I don't know how to be enough without you. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then she did something she hadn't done since this all began. She pressed send. To her surprise, the message didn't bounce back. The next day, her phone buzzed. Camilla, I think about him every day. I didn't want to make things harder, but I never stopped loving him. That was the beginning. Over the next few weeks, Ariel and Camilla spoke, carefully, cautiously, always circling the fragile bond they shared. Two women from different worlds, tied by one beating heart. Eventually they met, in a quiet cafe in Brooklyn, far from photographers and scandal. Camilla looked thinner, tired, but her eyes still held that same calm warmth. I don't want confusion in his life, Ariel said, but I also don't want to lie to him. Camilla nodded. I'll follow your lead. Always. Ariel reached into her bag and slid something across the table. The DNA bracelet. Camilla's eyes widened. I want you to keep it, Ariel said. He should have it someday, when he asks. And he will. Camilla's voice trembled. Will I ever see him again? Ariel took a breath, then smiled, though her eyes were glassy. Yes. In time, Camilla returned, not as a maid, not as a ghost, but as something else, an unspoken part of their lives. Ariel introduced her slowly, as a friend from Noah's early childhood. No labels, no drama, just love, witnessed quietly. Years later, on Noah's 10th birthday, he found the bracelet in a velvet box, with a note in his mother's handwriting. Families aren't always simple, but love makes them real. Ask me when you're ready and I'll tell you everything. He held it in his palm, curious, a symbol of truth hidden once, now gently waiting. Because in the end, Noah wasn't just the child of one mother. He was the miracle born of two.